Hello, 8th grade parents. It's Chuck Taft again, your favorite American history guy in 8th grade. I'm also the only American history guy in 8th grade. And here's one more video, maybe the most important video that I'm going to send you this year, because it's a topic that I know is near and dear to all of your hearts. And it is mine as well. And that is assessment in American studies. Now, I understand that many students and parents at USM take grades very seriously. And while I love that my young historians are dedicated to their studies, I do not want a letter grade to drive a student or have a student feeling that he or she is defined by a letter grade. I want kids focusing on learning and not the eventual letter. Learning is what makes life so fun. It's the thrill of the chase, that feeling of accomplishment, those aha moments. It's the twinkle in the eye that makes my job so much fun. And that's my goal for students, that they develop a passion for learning and that they polish the skills and habits necessary to succeed in this passion. I hope this year that my young historians will grow and understand the class content, develop their discipline area skills, and build their academic processes or habits necessary for success in any school setting. I also hope that the students are going to push themselves to improve as students and as members of the community, always striving for growth. The growth mindset has become my mantra, not just in examining stories in history, not just in looking at America's story, but more importantly, as we examine ourselves. So, the format of assessment in American history is a result of a growth mindset on my part. Because over the past decade or so, I've reflected on how I assess student work and performance and how I offer feedback to students and parents. I know that I can get better. I know I can improve the feedback for course assignments, for activities, and for projects, especially if I want students to grow. In order to push for this improvement, I'm going to tell you what I've done. I've attended conference sessions, I've followed webinars, I've listened to podcasts, I've read a ton of journal articles, and I don't know how many books by leading thinkers in and out of education. I've even brought speakers here to University School for our Summer Spark program. I've discussed the assessment ideas with anyone that'll listen. I've looked at similar assessment strategies from teachers around the globe. I've tried to determine what components and aspects would work best for here at USM, and mostly what works best for my young historians, your kids. And I'll be honest, it's still a work in progress, and my system is not perfect, but I believe it's better than a single letter grade for an entire semester. Instead of measuring learning in numerical points and letters, your young historians, my young historians, are trying to hit targets, what I call learning targets. And they're trying to hit them in three key areas: in content, in skills, and in process. I've seen these called proficiencies, competencies, attributes, objectives, standards, you name it. But I'm going to stick with my verbiage because I like the visual idea of the target. The academic targets that I set in class are established through state and national content standards, as well as my teaching experience in doing this history thing for a long time. The skill targets are mostly targets based on the C3 framework from the National Council of the Social Studies and the recent Wisconsin Social Studies standards that I was fortunate enough to be part of writing. And when it comes to process targets, that's been developed within the USM Social Studies Department and my experience in what is necessary for students to succeed in and out of the classroom. Now, using these targets as guidelines, I give feedback on their performance and production on a scale of 0 to 4. Please note that this is not a traditional 4-point GPA. It's not 4 represents an A, 3 is a B, 2 is a C. No. It is different. The points are more descriptors for categories. If a student does not demonstrate any evidence in meeting a goal or does not complete an assignment or an assessment that measures that goal or target, the assessment is 0. It's basically they didn't do it or I have no evidence. All right, it's an I don't know, or rarely at university school, an I don't care. If a student gets an assessment of 1, that represents what I call a not yet. There's evidence that demonstrates a partial understanding of the target, but there's still a lot of room for growth. They get it a little bit, but they're still pretty confused. If a student's getting there, almost there, that's a 2. That's where they demonstrate an understanding of the basics, They might not have all the nuances or the complex understanding. They still need some work, but they're almost there. They're getting close to hitting the target. When a student hits the target by clearly demonstrating complete understanding or successful performances with few to no errors, by the way, it's few to no errors. They don't have to be perfect. The assessment is a 3, or what I like to call, I got it. I got it is the goal. A 3 is the goal. That means that students have hit the target. My hope is that students walk out of my doors in June with the ability to hit the target and every content, skill, and process target. Is it a lofty goal? Well, yeah, but we got to shoot for the best, right? That's why we're here. So again, the 3 is the goal for your students. My young historians, I want them to hit the target on the different targets that I establish. Now, kids stress out and freak out because they want the 4. They think, oh, it's the A+, it's the A+. 4 is mastery, which means advanced learning well beyond the target. It's above and beyond. It's not extra credit. It's not more. It's movement beyond hitting the target to much higher level skills of application, synthesis, creation. My analogy is it's kind of like hitting the bullseye 3 times and then teaching somebody how to hit the bullseye 3 times. Students can be able to exhibit this level through their assigned work, or they could choose a different format, but a lot of times this is something that I give them the feedback on as opposed to their aiming for it. They should be looking for 3s, so they shouldn't stress about no 4s. Now, when students receive quizzes, assignments, or target displays, the learning targets are always the core of the assessment, and they're always published clearly. Note that on these assessments right here, the targets are right there, and you can't hit a target if you don't look at it. Note that when I evaluate students' work, I rarely will assign a letter grade because the feedback is essential, but the feedback usually isn't a letter because the letter doesn't give them enough information. Now, if a student doesn't hit the target the first time, or targets, there's always an opportunity for reassessment. Let's be honest, nobody gets everything the first time around. Now, reassessment does involve some reflection, and reassessments aren't simply retakes of quizzes. That's why if there is a test and students just say, hey, I'm going to go in there and blow the test and then retake it because I'll know what's on the test, bad move. Because number one, the reassessment isn't going to be the same test, and number two, all that does is it gives the student more work. There are time parameters for reassessment pretty much for my sanity. However, reassessment is offered in pretty much every aspect of class because my goal for all of my students is to hit targets. Not just to hit the target on a specific quiz on Tuesday, September whatever, at 10:15 a.m. Why do we do it that way? So that our students can feel a little bit better. They feel more successful, that they can hit these targets. Hopefully that leads to less anxiety, and it offers more opportunity to learn, because that's why we're here. Just to offer a quick model as to why I'm not the fan of the old mathematical grading system that many people are used to. Here's an example of 7 different students who across an entire semester in 5 different units had extremely diverse experiences. One, Allison, went from 59 to 99. Started off poorly, ended with a bang. Bobby started off awesome and then struggled at the end of the semester. Cameron, pretty much average the entire time across the board. Daphne really had a tough September, but then come October, November, and December, she was crushing it. Ella, the other way around. She had a real good start to the year, but then really fell near the end of the semester. Flip, I don't even know if Flip knew that school started, but then in his next 4 units was awesome. Graham, the best student in the class until the last unit, where he just decided to do nothing. Again, 7 different students with 7 incredibly different experiences. But if you average all of their work, as we would traditionally do with letter grades, they all get a C+. So therefore, in my mind, that C+ offers absolutely no information. It does nothing to say where a student can improve, and also it doesn't take into consideration any growth of the students throughout the semester. However, your student is going to get a letter grade at the end of the semester. That's university school policy for now until I get my way. So I am going to give your student actually 3 letter grades at the end of the semester. 1 in content, 1 in skill, and 1 in process. I'm also going to give them feedback throughout the year for every unit in their content, skill, and process for their targets. The process targets are all the same. The process targets are ones commonly known as your academic habits, that you're organized, you do your stuff on time and all that. I'll continuously give them feedback on that, and they're going to reflect on those. The skills will often be recursive as well. The content is what's going to change every unit. I'm going to use those in order to go to that traditional letter grade that I don't like, but I have to give anyways. But I'm going to tell you that I'm also going to factor in there improvement. I'm not going to penalize somebody for struggling in September if by December they're on top of their game. Because in reality, 1 letter grade for 4 months makes no sense to me. It's kind of like capturing an entire summer in 1 photograph. I just don't see it working. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret too. I've been doing this for a long time. I've got some institutional knowledge in the subject of grades in the middle school. So here's the secret. Middle school letter grades do not matter. If we take a moment to reflect on what is and isn't significant in 8th grade, I think we all can agree that learning is far more important than a grade. 8th grade letter grades will not go onto any transcripts. They aren't considered for college applications. Future professions don't look at them. What is integral, what we can give students in 8th grade that they can take forward into the upper school and beyond, is the core content knowledge, the development of their skills, awesome processes, and habits for success. The soft skills are important as well, and I find that attitude and effort are the key to success in any path. Academic path, professional path, athletic path, artistic path, social path, you name it, effort and attitude matter. While these important components are not graded, students and parents should have some feedback in them, right? That's where written comments and conversations in and out of class make up an essential part of the assessment and feedback cycle. If you ever want to know how your student's doing in class, ask them about their effort and attitude. And then ask me as well. That's really telling, I think. Pam Nosbush asked us a few years ago to write down a signature quote that we felt really summarized our view on our job here at University School and why we got into education in the first place. And mine was simple. I'm a teacher still because I love learning. I want everybody to love learning because learning is cool. It is just one of the most awesome things we can do. I want our students to grow. I want them to reach for the stars, be a moonshot thinker. I want them to realize that effort and attitude pay off, that they can fail and improve, and that most of all, everybody can do well if they keep pushing and pushing and doing their best. So, I appreciate you listening to this video about assessment in American history in 8th grade. If you have any questions, please let me know. Obviously, it's something I'm passionate about. I like to talk about it. And while I know not everybody may agree with this approach, when I do my research, when I do my investigation, I don't see any arguments for keeping letter grades, especially in the middle school. So that's what I'm doing. What I want to do is help your kids hit the target.